The United States is considering transferring Tomahawk and Barracuda cruise missiles to Ukraine. However, a final decision has not yet been made. According to Clash Report, citing the Wall Street Journal, the United States is considering the possibility of transferring Tomahawk cruise missiles with a range of more than 2,400 kilometers and Barracuda cruise missiles with a range of more than 800 kilometers to Ukraine. Andrey Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation, previously stated that if Ukraine acquires Tomahawk missiles, the entire European part of Russia from St. Petersburg to the Urals would be under attack. Tomahawk missiles would make Russian refineries, gas hubs, power plants, and transport hubs more vulnerable. The Barracuda is a next-generation cruise missile that was first unveiled in 2024. The weapon was developed by the American company Anduril Industries. Unlike traditional heavy cruise missiles, the Barracuda is positioned as a relatively inexpensive, mass-producible missile for large-scale strike operations. According to open data, the Barracuda 500 has a range of approximately 900 kilometers and carries a warhead of approximately 45 kilograms. GPS and inertial systems are likely used for guidance, but the exact technical details are not disclosed. The rocket is made from cheaper materials and the manufacturer claims a significantly simplified design, specifically fewer parts and tools in production, which reduces the cost per unit. Anduril Industries notes that the Barracuda missile can be assembled with a wrench. The missiles can be launched from F-15E, F-18 and F-16 fighters, as well as Rapid Dragon missiles. Although the missile was unveiled in 2024, production has already begun in Taiwan. Aviation expert Valery Romanenko, a leading researcher at the Antonov State Aviation Museum, believes that the transfer of Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine could radically change the course of the war, turning it into an exponential decline for Russia. Speaking on the Suspiln TV channel, Romanenko emphasized that the Tomahawk is not just a long-range weapon, but a very powerful one. The missile carries a 450-kilogram warhead. The Tomahawk's range can be approximately 1,500 kilometers or even more. Thus, the two main factories in the Russian Federation that produce the Shahed missiles, as well as enterprises producing key missiles, the Kh-101, Kalibr, Kinzhal, and the Iskander ballistic missiles, will be in the affected area. If Ukraine is capable of launching cruise missile strikes against these enterprises, Russia will simply collapse, and the war of attrition for Russia will fade exponentially, Romanenko emphasized. At the same time, military expert Mikhail Zhirokov noted that he has a big question regarding the Tomahawk cruise missiles because Ukraine does not have carriers for these missiles, but the Barracuda will definitely be a significant boost for us. There's very little information about the Barracuda in open sources because they weren't accepted into US service until 2024. But even the information that does exist suggests that these mini cruise missiles can be launched from HIMARS launchers or from F-16s, and that's a significant upgrade. Again, there are 3 modifications, and only one of them, the Barracuda 500, can fly 925 kilometers. The others have ranges of 220 and a bit over 300 kilometers. The warhead isn't large either, like on our deep strike drones, but it will be sufficient for Russian power plants and substations, Zhirokov commented.
Russia's energy crisis persists among Ukraine's relentless attacks on the country's energy infrastructure. Russians are suffering from fuel shortage and high prices for gasoline. Residents are forced to wait in kilometers-long lines to purchase fuel as the energy crisis has now spilled over from Ukraine's Russian-held territories to Russia's region. The latest video footage released on X shows a very long line of cars in the federal highway M12 between Moscow and Kazan, the capital of Russia's Tatarstan Republic. One filling station per 150 kilometers. I counted 130 cars in front of us, one resident waiting in the line posted on social media. In the video, the social media user said there were only 2 gas stations in the entire highway, adding that there were no cafes, restaurants or toilets nearby. Myriads of such videos have emerged in social media platforms showing long queues for gas stations. It should be noted that the shortage of fuel has forced the authorities to introduce rations for the use of gasoline from western Kaliningrad region to Vladivostok in the Far East, according to Russian media reports. Once energy superpower, Russia can no longer meet the demands of own residents. Costs of gasoline have soared more than 50% since January, while diesel prices have jumped up to 10% in just a month. Last week, Izvestia pro-Moscow publication reported that Russia's second-largest oil producer Lukoil company had banned the sale of gasoline in jerry cans at some Moscow stations and no longer accepts fuel cards at Nizhny Novgorod to prevent panic buying. Ukraine's escalated drone attacks have undermined Russia's refining capacity. In Russian-held Crimea Peninsula alone, about half of gas stations already run dry. Far East and the Volga Federal District have been hit hardest by fuel shortage.
Федеральная трасса М12, Москва-Казань. Платная трасса. Заправки одна заправка на 150 километров. На каждой заправке 1,5-2 километра стоят очереди машин, чтобы заправиться. Вот сейчас покажу, что это такое, и когда это будет заправимся мы, это непонятно. Я насчитала перед нами 130 машин. На трассе туалетов нет, кафешек нет, ни попить, ни поесть, нигде ничего не купить. Ну и в туалет, естественно, тоже нет, нигде не сходить. В Чистополе только.